Hi, helping kids with sports, whether you're a youth coach or a parent, has a lot of rewards. It also can be challenging. What a couple of things that can be really helpful for helping kids in sports is, first of all, having a sense of what an activity you're going to run actually is helpful. And so one of the best ways to do this is actually do it yourself. But when you actually do it yourself, it gives you a much clearer sense of this actually seems a lot harder. Or maybe setting a bunch of stuff into, let's say, ChatGPT or Gemini or an AI program to make a plan. It may give you some ideas, but the problem is that's not always realistic based on the individual needs of your child or the team. So the idea is wherever you're getting the resources from or creating your own stuff. And again, it could be something as simple as, let's just say, I don't know, that if you go to a park and do soft toss with your child, or doing soft toss with the team, or doing various things hitting off the tee, having a sense of what does it actually feel like to do it can help. So for example, if we're talking about baseball and hitting off the tee, depending on what kind of tee it is, there are times where kids sort of don't actually kind of have to adjust the distance from themselves to the home plate that's built into the tee. Whereas if it's a tee that doesn't have a home plate built in, like little things that sometimes you don't always realize until you actually try this stuff for yourself. But I think it gives you a much greater understanding of how things work and how to help your child or your team by actually doing these activities and trying them out yourself. So that's one thing that's really important with helping kids. And others really have no interest in doing it, or in theory may want to do it, but don't want to take the time to plan anything out or execute. The key thing is, when it comes to helping your child, so thinking about each child has different needs, looking at what are the things that they want to execute, whether it's, let's say, baseball, there's lots of things that kids may want to work on, but figuring out, having a clear plan with that. So let's say the example of soccer of dribbling around the defender. So maybe setting up an activity where they set up cones and they have to maneuver in and out. So if they want to hit the ball and, let's say, hit less pop flies and more sort of line drives, thinking about where they actually practice, but maybe you set up a tee as an example and you show them where they should aim to make contact with the ball to help increase the likelihood of it being a long drive. And then maybe even make a game out of it for points or something. Maybe helping them to set up a plan. For the kids that really are not very self-motivated to do it, that's where I think you have to, as a parent, decide, they're going to lose interest in the sport. They probably can quit because, they feel like they're compelled to do something. If you have a child that sort of likes it, but is not, gung-ho about practicing on their own, you don't want to force them to practice. Because that's probably one of the number one ways to make them quit is if they have no interest to start and then you're forcing them to do it even more outside of the organized activities. Kind of a backdoor approach to this is to, first of all, it should ideally always be fun, but also just making it for some kids not about the idea of practice. Make it sort of informal to start can really help them to do it in sort of a fun way without really thinking about it as practice. And then from there now, let's play a game where we, set up buckets and the goal is to basically knock down the buckets. And so again, if you're coaching a team, you can use that as a game, you can use it with your child in the backyard or wherever. But the other thing is, so if you take that idea of work on the accuracy by knocking down the cones, then, knocking down the buckets rather. But then, you could also actually mimic, let's say, throwing the ball to a base. So if you basically stick the bucket at a base and you basically have maybe one bucket and then either a second bucket on top or a creek or something, depending on how old your child is, you can actually simulate the height of where a child's glove would be if they were playing that base and you were throwing the ball to them. So the idea is you can kind of, in a fun way, create these games that actually really teach the kids, very, basic and really important fundamental skills with baseball. So for kids that really don't have a strong interest in practicing, if you can make the activities fun, and again, not force them to do it, but offer to say, here's this fun game I saw online. And again, the thing is, if they really don't want to do it, my recommendation is certainly don't push them, because that, again, they're probably likely to quit and not be very happy with you. I think the caveat to that is that, for kids that are playing on higher level teams, regardless of the sport, oftentimes there is more of an expectation of either formally or informally of practicing outside the formal practices. And that's where, especially if you as a parent are investing a lot of money, time, and resources into, your child playing at a certain level, if you're willing to do that they should sort of pull their weight in terms of doing what they need to be doing. You still want to make sure, above all, that they're having fun with it. And again, if the pressure is too much or really not fun for them, then obviously it's good to reconsider the choice at the level. But the point is that I think if you can really make things fun, so if you can really help your child to have fun with it and actually create either more motivation to actually want to do it, let's say to practice per se. If they do it and they have fun with it, they're going to get better. And then that translates into things, during the season. Because here's the thing for a lot of sports. because a lot of sports you can play both in the fall and spring. Right now in the summer, there's not that much time really between the end of the spring season and the start of the fall season. But, now is really a good opportunity to really help them get back into shape and kind of get back to where they were to the extent you can last spring, so they can really kind of hit the ground running in the fall and really excel in the way that probably they. I mean, one of the other things, though, that is really challenging as a parent is really thinking about the fact that, you may have certain goals and aspirations for your child in sports, but, in order to really sort of help your kids and support them, you also have to recognize what they want. And in the end, that probably matters far more, because you can't really, in theory, you can force your kid to go to a certain level and do stuff in sport, but they're not going to be happy, it's not working. But the idea is if you can sort of, balance your own expectations and desires of them while supporting them, but really at the same time, being able to take that step back to recognize, what does my child truly want? I think you can certainly, gently sort of guide and push. But again, if you get a lot of pushback, that's really a big sign to say, I need to take a step back and think about, am I really pushing my kid to do this sport because I want it or because they generally seem interested? One of the challenging things with this, though, is if you see your child generally having fun, but it's the other things like getting frustrated easily or having a hard time not being very resilient when things don't go their way, that's the thing where those are really important things to work on, because you don't want your child quitting a sport because they can't handle those things. And so I think that's a different situation, where I think you really need to help your kid to navigate those things. And that's where, doing stuff, on your own, different strategies, breathing exercises can sometimes be helpful, or, seeing professional assistance in some cases can be very beneficial. The point is you really want to support your child with everything with sports, but you really have to sort of look at your own expectations and really make sure that you're putting your child's interests first and not, what you think makes sense based on what you want for that. So I hope this is helpful getting you thinking about a little bit about what you can do this summer to help your child, but really in general, think about even your own mindset as well, besides the practical aspects.